Two tropical systems are spinning up, and things are about to get very interesting. Tropical storm Humberto just formed in the southwest Atlantic and could become a hurricane in just a few days. But right next to it, another disturbance over the northeastern Caribbean is organizing, and it could become another tropical storm or even a hurricane with potential impacts to the Bahamas and possibly even the east coast of the US next week. In this video, I'm going to show you what's happening in the tropics and what to expect going forward. But first, if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button for more tropical weather updates. Here's a look at what's happening in the tropical Atlantic. We have Tropical Storm Humberto. This is the first advisory. It has winds of 40 miles an hour, gusts to 50 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 15 miles an hour, and the minimum central pressure is around 1008 millibars, and it is expected to continue going off to the northwest over the next few days. It's forecasted to reach hurricane intensity with winds of around 80 miles an hour. By Saturday, September 27th, winds are supposed to be around 80 miles per hour, and then it intensifies into a Category 2 with winds of 105 miles an hour, possibly even 110 miles an hour by the time we get to next Monday, September 29th. Now, at this point, it could even become a major hurricane. And then we have, just to the west of it, a disturbance located over the Caribbean right now, and it's going to be causing impacts in terms of heavy rainfall across Puerto Rico and also the Dominican Republic, with potential for flooding over the next day or two. And then it is going to move into the southwestern Atlantic towards the Turks and Caicos Islands and the Bahamas over the next several days, with a 40% chance of turning into a tropical cyclone in the next 2 days and an 80% chance in the next 7 days. So that's going to be the next storm, and it could get the I name. I think it's Imelda, the infamous I name storm, and this is going to be impacting land areas, and it could even move towards the east coast of the U.S. That's going to be a possibility. Then we also have Hurricane Gabrielle continues racing off to the east with winds of 100 miles an hour now, so it has weakened down, but it's moving east at 29 miles an hour, and it is expected to hit the Azores. By the time we get to tomorrow night, we could be seeing a hurricane hitting the Azores, and there actually are hurricane warnings in place for that, and the cone actually takes it off to the east, and then it could even reach Portugal, Spain, and even Morocco, apparently, in the next 5 days. So that's pretty interesting. Key messages for Hurricane Gabrielle. None of our other tropical systems have key messages yet. Gabrielle is forecast to approach the Azores late on Thursday as a hurricane. A hurricane warning is in effect for all of the islands of the Azores, and there's hurricane conditions likely Thursday night into Friday, with significant hurricane-force wind gusts likely even after the center passes. And there's also going to be a dangerous storm surge and coastal flooding expected wherever there's onshore winds, plus large and destructive waves, and swells will continue to impact Bermuda and the east coast of the U.S. over the next day or so, even with Gabrielle several hundred miles away in the open Atlantic. Now, back to what's going on close to the Caribbean, we have Tropical Storm Humberto. It's starting out as a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm, but it is expected to strengthen pretty quickly, and the model guidance shows within the next 2 to 3 days it could be a hurricane, and then even a Category 2, and there is the potential for a major hurricane out of this as soon as really 4 to 5 days. That's going to be something to watch. Then we also have Invest 94L, the disturbance over the Caribbean, expected to move towards the Bahamas. It's expected to strengthen into a tropical storm in around 2 to 3 days, according to the model intensity guidance. We'll have to see what happens with that, since it doesn't really have an organized center in it, and it is expected to go over some land areas, so that could slow down some organization and intensification until it's able to get back over water in the southwestern Atlantic. But even a couple of models are showing it becoming a hurricane, which is definitely possible, but it will be causing significant impacts if it does so. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get rapid intensification out of one or both of these storms, given the very warm sea surface temperatures. We have 29, 30, even 31 degrees Celsius, especially near the Turks and Caicos Islands in the eastern and southeastern Bahamas. We're looking at over 30 degrees Celsius. That's going to be in the mid to upper 80s in terms of those sea surface temperatures. That's going to be very favorable for intensification. We'll have to see how favorable the upper level winds are for intensification. Here's a look at the GFS model showing right now, tonight, going even into tomorrow, we're looking at very heavy rain from this tropical disturbance, Invest 94, over the Caribbean, especially the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, looking at potential flooding there. And then that disturbance finally makes it over the open waters near the Turks and Caicos Islands. And then we're looking at, by September 27th, on Saturday morning, we're looking at potentially a tropical depression trying to form, according to the GFS model. And then Humberto is already a pretty significant hurricane. It even becomes a major hurricane on the GFS over the weekend. Then we have over the Turks and Caicos Islands a strengthening tropical storm, and then notice these two tropical systems, they're actually close enough together that we start seeing somewhat of a Fujiwara effect, where you get the one further south starts to move kind of to the east, and then the one above it wants to move west, kind of in a circle. But then notice what happens. According to the GFS model, by the middle of the week, around Wednesday, October 1st, we start seeing that pretty much the two storms get merged into each other and get carried away as an extra tropical storm system. So the only impacts are really going to be in the Caribbean over the next couple days, and then the Bahamas going all the way into the early part of next week. You could get some rain along the East Coast near the Carolinas, but other than that, really not a whole lot happening there. And then it gets carried out in the open Atlantic as a extra tropical storm system. We'll also have to look at how the wind shear affects our storm systems, especially the one further west. According to the GFS model, you do have a trough and sort of a really non-symmetrical outflow pattern above our tropical disturbance, so that might cause a problem even really for both of these storms, but especially the one further west under this upper level area of high pressure. Sometimes if these two systems are too close together, they can actually interfere with each other. But the GFS model does show some intensification with the one further west. Humberto does most of the intensifying before they both get pulled out into the open Atlantic. Now, here's a look at the AI Euro model showing the same thing. Heavy rainfall across the Caribbean over the next couple days. But then as we go into Sunday, we start seeing a tropical depression trying to form. Humberto is actually further east. So it's further away from our disturbance, actually, which could allow this disturbance to move further west and also further north and intensify. And also, it also helps that the Euro model shows, the AI Euro model is showing the area of low pressure is also further west across the southern Bahamas. So then it gets closer to Florida and ends up hitting the southeastern U.S. as a pretty strong tropical storm, even a hurricane at this point, around Tuesday, September 30th, going even into Wednesday, October 1st. And then one storm gets taken away, but then this other just kind of stays there for a while. And then it looks like it merges with a frontal system temporarily, but then it looks like it might actually come back. I don't know if at this point it'll be tropical or not. It looks kind of like you have still a front connected with it, but it looks like we get a return. So it could hit the same area twice, and it comes back around Saturday, October 4th. So that's an interesting forecast from the AI Euro model. And really all these forecast models are showing similarities up to a certain point, but then things get a lot more tricky. Here's a look at the regular Euro model showing a similar thing, except our disturbance is going to be the storm after Humberto. We're looking at, it's over the Bahamas later this weekend into the early part of next week. But then it starts to pull to the east. But then Humberto gets taken away as an extra tropical storm system. This storm actually avoids getting pulled into those fronts and actually intensifies very significantly around Thursday, October 2nd, before moving further west. And then by Sunday, October 5th, we're looking at potentially a Category 2 hurricane hitting the East Coast, eastern North Carolina, Eastern Virginia, the Delmarva Peninsula, like getting smashed by a hurricane, even going to Monday, October 6th, and it's actually moving pretty slowly, because then by Monday night, going into Tuesday, October 7th, it's moving up the northeast. That would cause significant problems for the East Coast if this scenario happens. But we'll have to see, because there's a lot of moving parts that could really steer both of these storm systems, especially the one closer to the Bahamas. There's Humberto, that will cause impacts with the Fujiwara effect, and potentially if the storms are closer together, there could be some interference. If they're further apart, that could allow really both of them, but even the one further west, to intensify more and not experience some of that as much wind shear from the outflow from the stronger storm system. And then we also have this ridging to the east of our storms, and then we also have a trough over the southeastern U.S. That's also a factor. And here's what happens with the Euro model. Humberto gets pulled into a frontal system. Our one further west stays behind, and then it has the chance to hit the eastern U.S. because you have a ridge that builds to the east of it, forcing it to go further west. That allows it to hit the U.S., and then it gets pulled into the higher latitude upper level pattern. Now, the GFS model shows something completely different, where we still have that ridge pushing our storm systems, but then we have the Fujiwara effect that happens. So then both storm systems kind of merge into each other. And then we also have more troughing over the southeastern U.S. that really takes over, and pretty much both storm systems get merged into the trough. And then we also have potential for some other storm systems after that, according to the GFS, but we're focused on Humberto and Invest 94 right now. But there's still a lot of uncertainty in what happens after the next, we'll say, 5 days or so. After that, it gets pretty uncertain what happens towards the middle part of next week and beyond. We'll just have to see kind of what happens with these upper level features, the timing and the intensity of the various fronts that are moving through, how close our storm systems are, and how strong they're able to get. But there are going to be a lot of impacts, especially to the Caribbean and the Bahamas, especially. You have, in terms of the rain, number one is going to be the rain. This is showing the rainfall over the next 5 days, but most of the rain from Invest 94L will be falling in the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico over the next, really from now to over the next couple days. We're looking at potentially 2 to 4 inches of rain across the Dominican Republic. But then the Turks and Caicos are looking at more rain, possibly 5 inches, maybe even over 7 inches in some places. So really 5 to 8 inches across the Turks and Caicos Islands. And then the eastern Bahamas are looking at potentially 3 to 7 inches of rain. The western Bahamas, not so much, depending on the track and how organized our storm system is. But the Euro model is showing a lot of rain will be impacting the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, especially over the next several days. And this is only over the next 5 days. Depending on how this tracks, how fast it's going, there could be even more. The east coast of the U.S. is looking at 1.5 to 2 inches of rain along coastal North Carolina and South Carolina. Some of this could be related to our disturbance, some of it not so much. Humberto will be dumping a whole bunch of rain out in the open Atlantic, probably like 15 inches of rain. And also, there's going to be wind impacts. If our Invest 94L is a tropical storm, when it impacts the Bahamas, we're looking at potential wind gusts on the Euro model. And if this intensifies more, this could be a very low estimate forecast. But we're looking at potential wind gusts on Monday afternoon, potentially 54 miles an hour in the northeastern Bahamas. Further back, maybe on Sunday afternoon, still wind gusts of around 45 miles an hour in the eastern Bahamas. So there is going to be a lot of rain and flooding impacts in the Caribbean over the next couple days. But then this weekend into early next week, the Bahamas should really be watching for significant impacts from Invest 94L, potentially, extremely heavy rain, flooding, also wind impacts. Also, there's going to be a lot of waves. You see those very high waves from Hurricane Gabrielle slamming through the Azores and even reaching Portugal by the weekend. But then after that, we have our high waves from Hurricane Humberto, and then also our Invest 94 bringing some high waves, at least 10 to 15 feet. And this is from a tropical storm. If this is stronger, there's going to be even more waves. And then the GFS model is keeping our storm systems away from the U.S. for the most part. If it does go further west, the waves will be a lot more intense and potentially storm surge impacts. So definitely something to watch. The tropics are getting pretty active out there as we head towards the end of September. In the Atlantic and also in the Eastern Pacific, we still have some hurricane activity. We have Hurricane Narda, a Category 2 with winds of 100 miles an hour, and it's supposed to weaken down to a Cat 1 for a day or two before it actually comes back to a Cat 2 with winds of 100 miles an hour, 105 miles an hour or so, going through Friday night before it weakens back down to a tropical storm. So yeah, that's pretty much what's happening in the tropics. If you liked this video, please be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already, share the video, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more weather updates on the tropics. Thanks for watching. Extreme Weather Zone, out.